Lucky Boys Podcast.
Man, it's just bad luck right now. But my concern is that when we all recover and this gets back to normal, that people may stay away from Chinese restaurants, all because of this negative stipulation on Asian people in general, just being dirty, eating crazy stuff. I just feel like people may continue their boycott on Chinese food or Asian food.
Well, like I always tell people, no one's inherently racist. It's what you pick up. Sometimes people are like, oh, I don't want to go to a Chinese restaurant. I'm not trying to be racist toward Chinese people, but I still want to go to a Chinese restaurant or Asian restaurant. Even during this virus part, some friends have told me they get calls from these companies that are doing, catering jobs, things like that. They call them and they ask them questions, that they would never expect. Like, hey, has anyone in your company or restaurant recently gone to China or come back from China? Mm-hmm. Or have they come back from Korea?
Right.
Or they come back from Japan? Just asking because we don't, want anyone who's touching our food
right.
to possibly have it. That's a weird conversation to have over the phone with someone who owns a restaurant. Like, it's like, oh, I'm not being racist. I just wonder if they did. If they did, I don't think I want to get food from them.
Yeah. So my sister's a teacher, right? And she was interviewing for this university job. And they asked her, like, before this whole Corona thing blew up, they called her back for a second interview. They loved her. And after that, she was like, what the heck's going on? Like, she's following up and it's just, they're ghosting her. Mm-hmm. And then she followed up again. And then they said, okay, here. And then they had this conversation with her. They said, do you want me to come in? No. That's fine. We can talk over the phone. And then they spoke to her over the phone and they're asking her all of these questions like, have you been to China? Do you have relatives that came back or anyone in your household? And she was like, excuse me? I mean, she's an American born. Her whole family's American. And all of a sudden she's feeling like she's been outcasted.
Yeah.
And after that was the last conversation. And, guess what? She's not getting the gig.
Exactly. Like I said, no one's inherently racist. Right. It's just what you choose. When you're scared, kind of go to your fear.
Mm-hmm. I feel like those are, how do you approach that? Because those are sometimes they're valid questions. Because if you're talking about a teacher, they're dealing with kids, so there's that concern as well. So, what is the appropriate approach to ask those certain types of questions? I know that it might be, it wouldn't, it's very difficult and challenging to answer those, and very sometimes inappropriate when in terms of like, okay, you're ordering food and you're asking these questions. But I think sometimes there's some questions like that are valid, like where you've been.
I disagree because with the coronavirus, anyone can have it.
Oh yeah, of course.
It's not going to discriminate like, oh, you're white, you're orange, you're green. Yeah. I'm not going to give it to you. You got blue eyes. I'm going to leave you alone. Oh, you got slanted eyes and your skin is yellow. Guess what? You got it. It doesn't discriminate, and the way it's spreading. Look at the one Jewish guy, like we were talking about,
right?
Spread it to like 40 people,
mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right?
Everyone in the synagogue,
and everyone in the synagogue. So, are they going to call Jewish people and say, "Have you been around the synagogue?"
Right?
Are they going to call Italians and say, "Hey, have you been to Italy recently?" It's. I'm okay with that if that questioning is across the board. If that's the new standard, right? Then I'm okay with that. Then I don't think you're singling anyone out. And what's disturbing is that if they weren't doing that, right? I mean, they obviously have to fill the position, and they're just not filling that position. If you're Asian, then that's disturbing because you're supposed to be educated. You're in the academic world. You're a university. I'm not going to call out that university, but you're supposed to be educated. And if you're the head where you're coming in and questioning people to hire them, but you see that their last name is Asian, or you look at them and you go, okay, this person's Asian, and you're right away, you're putting the stiff arm out. You're going, no.
Yeah.
Not happening. And then or you're having to go through extra security, mm-hmm. extra questioning. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's going to make me feel some type of way. And I understand if this was a disease that hit us only, I get it. Then that's fair questioning. But I mean, it's like saying, like, if you see a black guy on a newspaper, right? And then, you go, oh, most black people are incarcerated. That means every single black person is a criminal. You know what I mean? And then you're going to walk across the street. And it's that type of mindset that causes this racism towards blacks, Asians, anyone that's not a part of who you are. I mean, as Johnny was saying, no one's born racist, but it's the people around you. And you got stupid people around you teaching you stupid things, and that becomes your belief.
Yeah.
And then you just have this negative way of looking at things. I mean, when we did our last coronavirus video, if you look down in the comments, I mean, a couple of people are saying something like,
I mean, those are pretty ignorant comments.
A lot of internet trolls.
Yeah, I don't think they were like.
but then that's
replies.
But that's how that, like, I know they're trolling, but at least a little bit is in them like that. You know what I mean? At least you got a little bit of that nasty, that racism. You know what I mean?
Dark inside you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like, you know, you got a little bit of that in you. And outside, you're gonna put on your mask, but you know, when you take off the clothes, you take off all the layers behind, you see the little the shittiness.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm pretty sure it might happen, and it's not going to stop.
Yep.
But you know, we have the option to like filter that. But you know what? No, I want people to see that. I'm down for that, like the good and the bad, because that's the world we live in. Mm-hmm. But that's what's disturbing. You're an education system, and because I'm sure they're not screening other members like that. Yeah,
what I meant is, like, this should be across the board. I agree. It should be across the board, because you don't know who's traveling to where. Right. So I think those questions are valid, like, because of what's happening right now. The fact that, coronavirus is easily transmitted. So I think, like, if anyone who's applying to any job, I think this is a valid question. But I think the approach is, like, how in HR now, you can't ask a person, like, how much they made in their last job or how old they are. You can't ask those questions anymore. But how do you approach, this situation and not offend anyone? Like, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if that school, institution, whatever, is asking those kind of questions of you, do you really want to work for them at the end of the day? Is that a place you want to be at? Because you know what kind of people you're working with now. They kind of let themselves be known what they're looking for, what kind of values they hold. So, maybe for your sister, it was a gift, because now she knows, hey, what kind of school that is and what their mentality is towards things. So maybe it was for her. She'll find a better job. Maybe it might take her a little bit longer, but it'll be more accepting job of who she is, instead of being a job asking, where she's from. A lot of things that people don't perceive as racist. Oh, is your family Chinese? Well, that's not a question you should be asking.
Right.
As part of your job. Oh,
right.
I see your last name's Asian. That's not a question. Like, I've been a restaurant manager. I've been a general manager. I've had a lot of HR lectures, where we had to understand what questions we can and can't ask. And those are questions we can't ask people. You should not be asking people those kind of questions and basing what their answers are on if you're going to hire them or not.
Right. I think that's, like, incredibly inappropriate.